What's going on, everyone? My name is Gaetan. I've been doing e-commerce and marketing for over 10 years now. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down how we grew a client 141% in 1 month after we took over the paid advertising from them. Right, so let's first jump into the Shopify dashboard. I'm going to make this a tad a little bit bigger. I'm going to refresh just to show you because there's a lot of fake dashboards going around in the industry. And the purpose of these videos is just to walk through, like, very slow pace, walk through every single thing that we did in order to explain and to give valuable insights that we might have and might help you as a brand or as a marketing performance marketeer, right? So first of all, sessions, here we have the year to date. So these sessions grew just a little bit, as you will see further down the video of what we actually did. We actually stripped budget to generate more revenue, which might sound a bit contradictory, but that's what we did. So sessions are, on pace or only grew 8% here. But then as you can see here, the total sales in April, which we are now May 3rd, grew 141%. They did 17,000 last year, and now they did 41,000, and they're on pace to do a whole lot more in May, since we here in the first 3 days we already grew 265%. And then in March, they had 2 large B2B orders. They always restock in March, so that's why the revenue is naturally higher than it was before, because last year they didn't really do B2B. Another thing that you will see here is, like, the amount of orders also grew really rapidly, and then the conversion rate is also something that we focused on and something that is steadily growing. So as you can see here in April, from 1% they went to 1.6, and then in May they went from 1% now at 2%. This is going to decrease a little bit as we move along, but I think it's going to be stuck around 1.7, 1.8 as we progress further down the funnel and optimize a little further. Now, this brand is a clothing and accessories brand. I'm not going to expose our customers or not going to expose, like, the numbers behind a brand just for privacy reasons, but I'm going to try and go as much in depth as I possibly can. So it's a clothing and accessories brand, and mainly they're in the sport vertical. So it's sport clothing and accessories, basically. So here we have their February to May layout, and as you can see here, marketing costs were just rising, while the gross sales and the net sales, obviously, like, this line currently is broken, I don't know why, but the gross sales, they stayed pretty surface level, right? They didn't really jump up the same way that marketing did. So they decided to hire externally, try to find an agency, and then obviously once we took over, things went pretty well for them. So to just show you in this dashboard as well, maybe let's take last 28 days. So here's what happened versus the year: 241% up. Refunds, taxes, net sales 130%. AOV, we grew that a lot, but this is still, like, with B2B also. And so if we take, like, B2C, this is obviously going to drop quite a bit. So 193, which is still relatively high. Platform ROAS, which is now sitting at 3.5, which is really good. And then their POAS, so their profit on ad spend, is also, like, really high, grew a lot, 62%, just in the first month, okay? So this is not like a year overview, this is just like the first month. And then the new customers grew by 57% because there was, like, this issue with having existing customers, like, back in the advertising loop, which just doesn't make sense at all. And then the CAC, the customer acquisition cost, that obviously dropped a lot as well. I think that pretty much illustrates the scaling problem that they have. Scaling the marketing spend, not getting in more orders, not having a sustainable customer acquisition cost. So that's kind of like the basic problem that they struggle with. So here's what we did. And this is, the part where I hope the most value is for, people watching this video. Since this is, like, my first long form video, I'm not sure how many people are going to find out about this, but hopefully it's a lot. And we can, this is valuable for you guys to use either for your brands or to, run your own marketing gig for other people. So a lot of it is research. That's really where it begins. And in this day and age, this isn't really rocket science anymore. Like, this was something back in the day when I started, like, 10 years ago. This was something that was so like a unicorn joker almost that agencies love to pull out and charge a lot of money for, because they presumably took like 2 or 3 senior marketeers and they dumped all their knowledge and research and they went really wild with it. And then you will get this like 50 pager of research that nobody's ever going to read. And then once you start, rolling the marketing, it's just like an aged document. But that was like really a thing back in the day. But now, honestly, you just get like a custom Claude script or a Claude skill that you develop in-house or that you develop for yourself, and you run the research through it. You just connect like your Meta, you connect your Google Ads, you connect the entire Shopify, you pull in a lot of data, you give it some custom prompts, and you basically run research, and you get like the entire output like fed back to you, and you store it somewhere because it'll be useful to plug Claude into this research, and whenever you work on this client, you can just always refer back to the research to have like better results. So the research mainly revolves around audiences and products. The rest of it is also important. We're going to get into those like just a minute, but audience and products are by far the most important aspects of running your research. The audience revolves around your audience segments, right? Who's buying and what are they buying and how frequently are they buying? And the system that we always go back to, which is also standard functionality in Shopify, which is also not standard functionality, but a built out functionality in Klaviyo, an email marketing tool that we use very often, is RFM. And RFM is a very, very beautiful e-commerce concept. It basically means recency, frequency, and monetary value. Recency is when was the last time that your customer appeared on your store and bought something. Frequency is how often do they buy if they end up at your store. And monetary value is how much do they spend when they purchase at your store. Now, depending on those 3 factors, they'll get a score from mostly 0 to 12. Sometimes people use other scales, but the most used one is just 0 to 12, right? The higher up your score, the more loyal that you are, the better of the customer that you are. The lower your score, like the more risk you have at losing that customer. So these different audiences give a lot of different insights and different values. So let me just show you, right? Back to the dashboard. Here you have like customer LTV and RFM, right? So LTV stands for lifetime value. And if we take like the entire period, we can see that the AOV on a general scale, like I said, is around 120 to 150, depending on the period that we are marketing in. Summer, obviously, for a sports brand is a more busy period than the winter is. So that's kind of how it fluctuates, right? Then you have average CLTV, which is the lifetime value of a customer, right? How much do they spend at the store in their lifetime on average? Average recency, like when was the last purchase on average that someone did, which is like fairly high for this point. But what I want to go to this moment in the video is like, obviously you see like the divide between the different customers, but you have this one. So this one is really important because you can see that your segments, they vary a lot by how much they spend, right? If you can find a new loyal customer, and even though you have to pay like a little bit more for them, they'll spend 559 euros instead of like, if you find just an active one, they'll spend 70 euros, which, considering your CAC of around 30, once we lose the high marketing spend that was previously in place, it'll barely break even, right? So this is like a very important concept if you're doing marketing, because your CAC is like new customer acquisition cost. Very important. How much does a new customer, specifically like a new customer, how much do they cost? And then your NROAS, like how much does a new customer bring in for your campaigns, right? Then maybe you also have MER, but I don't want to get like too technical and in depth. This video might be for another video, right? Who knows? So what you have here is NCAC, right? say your average NCAC is 30, like we are about to reach, I think midway in May, once we lost like all the high marketing levels, is going to be NCAC 30. But then we might launch a campaign where we have, like, for example, a buy two, get one free, right? 2+1, like a promo ad, right? That we run. We might see that the NCAC is 65, like really high. Like if you weighed off just solely against the AOV, and AOV, let's just say it was 125, so that leaves like 60 after taking away like all costs, and then minus cost of goods, minus marketing spend, minus a little overhead, that's barely break even, right? But we might find that the customers who click into this ad and spend like a lot of money, like two of these sports accessories in one time, then maybe you'll find that these are always loyals or always champions. And you already know that they are going to spend 559 euros at your store. So you don't weigh off the CAC against their AOV because that's just the first order. You weigh it off against their lifetime value. So that's why, audience segmentation and audience research is really big, right? Another reason why audience segmentation and research is really big is because you need to know what makes your customer tick. Why do they buy? What value propositions or what benefits and features resonate with these types of customers, right? One customer might respond really well to their different varieties, right? Different colors, different sizes. Another customer might be responding way better to like lifestyle images, right? Maybe this brand is sponsoring Tiger Woods, for example, and they see themselves as Tiger Woods. So that's maybe a message that resonates. So you have to kind of build segmentation to know what resonates and how much you're going to spend and what customer you're basically looking for. And those segmentations, they go through every step of the funnel, right? They go through every bit of your stack. They go through Shopify, they go through Klaviyo, they go through Meta, right? So you have all your segmentation set up there. Audience segmentation, really big. And then product segmentation is basically the exact same thing, but you just replace the word audience by products and you end up at the same point, right? Some products draw in higher NCACs. Some might even draw in lower NCACs. Some might draw in higher LTVs, right? The exact same principle like you saw, and we have a dashboard for this as well. You can, segment out all these products. You can see which ones are the most popular, which ones are the fastest movers. And then again, you can use that throughout your entire marketing funnel. You can make creatives with your best sellers, or you can make creatives with your worst sellers and package them as best sellers, or package them like as a one-off deal just to get the market moving. So if you have like product A that people buy and the NCAC is like $10, right? Maybe that product can also lead to an upsell, right? An upsell of $20, for example. So you can stretch the lifetime value of this customer or their first purchase to 30, while for other products that might not be the case. So I would say like this is the 80%. Research and audience and products, that's the 80%. Once again, you toss it into Claude, you mess around, you find your own skill, or you use a popular GitHub repo, you make some adjustments, and you have your audience and product segmentation. We could do like a deep dive video on that. Maybe it might be useful. Just let me know. The other part of the research is like on basically like the business itself, right? What does the website look like? Is it fairly optimized? Is it fast enough? Is it easy to navigate? Because maybe we can find some quick wins there to optimize the store already from the get-go, right? Just basic website stuff. What is their current setup in ads? What is their current setup in mail flows? Do they even have like mail software running? And in operations, this is also like a pretty neat one that we like to look at, and something that might be forgotten often, I think, by other marketing agencies. What do the operations look like? Are they able to scale? Like the question is not if we can scale, right? We could probably scale any brand unless like the offer or the product is just, nonsense, because no amount of marketing euros or dollars can fix a bad product just how it is. But maybe they're not ready for scale, right? Maybe, their grandma is doing the packages and shipping out these products. So obviously they're not ready to ship like 100,000 products per month unless they get that figured out. So we always look at operations as well. Another really neat one to look at in operations is how the content system works, right? Because to spin up a lot of assets, and contrary to what everyone is yapping about online, on LinkedIn especially, is like, hey, replace your entire agency, fire your marketing team because Claude is making killer assets and running our marketing. It's not the case. We've been investing a lot of money in developing our own creative workflow, and we rarely get like any hard winners. Like, we try to make beautiful ads because we work for beautiful brands, if that makes sense. So we can't really get away with like making these statics that look like AI slop. It doesn't work for us. We haven't tested it. They might kill, they might run, but we haven't tested it because that's just not the brands that we are working with. So then, out of this research, you should look for some quick wins. Quick wins are always nice because, especially early in their relationship, it's gonna boost like positivity, and it's gonna boost confidence. Like, every relationship that starts off, we have beautiful use cases, right? We have beautiful brands that we work with, but every relationship starts off with a lack of confidence. That's just how it is. There are a lot of marketing cowboys out there who talk a big game, but they can't really do marketing all that well. And most of the people that come to us have been burned, right? They have been burned by some agency. This is supposed to be a flame. So they have been burned by some agency, and then they come to us, and we have pick up the pieces and gain their trust and confidence. So installing some quick wins is always beneficial for you as a marketeer or as the brand, because it's going to uplift your revenue, but also for us, to kind of boost that confidence and to, kind of get the relationship off to a good start. Quick wins are mostly found in email flows for the customers that we work with. They always leave money on the table. The 80% of email flows is your welcome flow, your abandoned cart flow, your started checkout, so abandoned checkout flow, and your post-purchase flow. That's going to be 80% of all your email marketing, or it should be 80% of all your email marketing. Next thing we build is always like these RFM flows. And then basically, once we have all those flows, we just split them out between products, between audiences, right? That's like the entire 90% of the account. Another very good quick win is shutting down the bleed. Like you saw, let me just go back one time here. As you saw here in the marketing spend, like, there's a lot of spend for not there's a lot of spend for not a lot of revenue uplift against it, right? So, and then so shutting down the bleed, and then we have part CRO, conversion rate optimization, quick wins, right? So we're not, at this point, we're not rebuilding like entire landing pages, like doing everything from scratch. That's not what we're doing. We're looking for quick wins. For example, this brand has a free complimentary item with each purchase, but you only find out at checkout. So that's something that we brought up to the product page, for example, just to have like that visible for the customer, that they get a free item. Everybody loves free items, so that's like a quick win. Same thing, like things that are above the fold and lower than the fold. We try to move everything that is beneficial for the customer or that informs the customer really well. We're trying to move it above the fold. So that's also like a quick win that we can always do, right? So quick wins in CRO, very important. And then let's move to how we scale this brand, right? So little step in between, we built a dashboard. It took some time for us to build this dashboard. Like, initially, now that we have it, mostly it's just duplicating, cleaning the data, and then rolling it out. It takes us about a day to have like this dashboard with really deep insights. And then, right, how did we scale 141% for this customer in just 30 days, right? Mostly we rebuilt. We didn't build any additional things because we wanted to get like a status quo, like a situation zero from the point where we could scale up, right? First thing we did, and I think this is very important for anyone watching this video, creative system, right? So what people do and what they already have is like they know that they have to run different creatives, right? So these are all the creatives, they're running it, right? And then they find like this is a winner and this is a winner. And they kill the other ads. They just say, hey, let's just get rid of these. And then coming up on the next week, they say, okay, we have to replace these and maybe try 2 new test versions, right? So let me get out my entire coloring book here. So these are like new tests, like all new creatives, right? While they obviously like they're scaling these, right? So that's the system that they got down. That's already great, right? But it like you have to find a creative system that you can replicate, because if you're not doing anything with the learnings that you find here, and you do not find like a way to replicate your success, basically you're just running around in circles. Like you have to treat it like a business, and that's like the entire point of having a business. It's like making a mistake, right? Hiring a bad employee, right? You made a bad judgment call, and you have to learn from it. And you're not going to make that mistake in the future again, because you learned your lessons, and you keep that knowledge and you keep that context for the way moving forward, right? That's what running a business looks like. But you have to do the same thing for your creatives, because you can't just infinitely run new ads and find new creatives. Well, you can, but that's not going to let you grow exponentially. So what you need to do is find like a creative system where you can say like, what made this ad successful? First of all, who are we reaching, right? Why is it resonating? Why is the visual resonating? Why is the copy resonating? What is making this ad better than our other ads, right? It might be the product, might be the audience, might be the hook, might be the visual, might be the context, might be everything looped together, right? Find out what makes it work. More so, find out beforehand, before you launch this ad set. Find out what, or at least, write down what you're launching. Have a concept of what you are trying to launch and what you are trying to get out of the ad. So that if it succeeds, you can just say, hey, I'm going to take this concept and I'm going to make 2 new banger ads from this same concept, because we know it works, right? And then you can find that this creative system works, right? You found 2 new winners, and then you can go deeper. Like obviously this hook and this concept work really well. Will it also work for other products, other categories? Will it also work for other audiences, right? That's a creative system. You keep the creative feedback, the audience feedback, the product feedback, you keep it in a loop so that you can improve every single iteration, and you don't have to like sit down and brainstorm every single time and burn all your Claude tokens just to find like new content, but you have like these systems that you can replicate on end and on end. So that's first thing we did. We installed a creative system. We are 7 people at the agency that I founded, and our creative team is 4 people, and they take care of the creative system. So now they at least know what works. We know what works, and we can just replicate it, which is why you can scale so quickly. Next up, like I said, email flows. They were doing 11% of attributed revenue for their email flows, which is not a lot, especially if you have Klaviyo set up, which is a really good tool, especially with Shopify. You should be able to get around 25 to 30% if you're not investing like stupid amounts in email marketing. If you're investing stupid amounts, you should get like 40%, which is high, but I'd say with the basic flows, which are welcome flow, abandoned cart, abandoned checkout, and post-purchase flows, you should get around 25 to 30% of your attributed revenue. So once we saw 11%, we knew we had to build there first. And this also doesn't cost any money, right? So this is also like a very valuable concept for anyone doing marketing or anyone running e-commerce. The levers that you can pull to increase your revenue without having to pay like per click or per impression are really valuable levers. CRO, conversion rate optimization, optimizing your site with 20% more conversion rate is just 20% more revenue without having you to pay for it. You obviously have to pay for the effort that goes behind it, but you don't have to pay like every single time that you generate more revenue, if that makes sense. The same thing is not true with advertising, right? So that's something that you should focus on. The same thing also with email flows, right? If you have 25% attributed revenue instead of 11%, right? That's just going to mean that you generate more revenue paying the exact same for Klaviyo, just having, optimized flows. Next thing we did is campaign structure. Audiences were all mixed up, so they had different interests and different countries in one single ad set, so the algorithm was just firing all over the place. Moreover, they didn't have enough budget to cover either one of the countries, so they had two countries in the audiences, but they didn't have budget to cover even one of the audiences. So that's something that you should never be doing, right? Because if we go back to this one, audience research and segmentation is one of the most valuable things that you can do, and one of the most valuable, research and insight departments that you can handle as a marketeer. So if you're just tossing all your audiences into one big pot, genuinely, what are you doing? Like, you should be separating these to have clean data and to make clean decisions. So what we found is in country one that was added in this ad set, the CPA was 38. And then in the other country number two, I'll let you take an educated guess. Yes, 72 CPA. Of course, that's horrible. Like, together, this makes 110.55 CPA, which is dog water, but it looks way better than this 72. What they had to do was immediately kill, shoot, take it behind the barn, and abandon this 72 country. But I don't even think that it's because of the country. I think, like, right now we're inactive in this country because we're trying to scale this one first until we hit like our cap, until like CPMs climb, creative fatigue is a thing, which is still really far. And then we're going to make the jump to another country. And I don't really think that this country is bad. It's just like the already small budget that they have was divided between two different countries. So the algo was all over the place, right? It just didn't know where to fire. So it found like one conversion every blue moon. And then, that's how you get up to these high CPAs. Same thing also with interest, right? It's just going to keep spending and spending money without focus. And that's, how you spend a lot of money without a lot of results. And then we tackled feed and audience structures, right? So what we have now is stupidly simple, and that's the way the algorithm likes it right now. So we have one campaign for prospecting. So these are completely new customers. We exclude everything, from carts. We exclude everything that is purchases. We run those in a remarketing campaign. And then we have within our prospecting campaign, we have winners. And then within our remarketing campaign, we also have winners. So we launch all these different creative concepts, these different creative inputs that we have. We launch them in different audiences, mostly broad targeting, so no interests, and then one country, obviously. So creative packs go in here, or creative concepts go in here. We have one big group with all the winners. We just ship the winners once they are tested thoroughly. We ship them to the winning campaign, and then the same thing for the remarketing. And then once in a while, we might run a promo campaign as well in the prospecting or in the remarketing group. And then most of the heavy lifting after the purchase is just handled in Klaviyo for this brand. that's really the game plan of how we scaled this brand 141% in just our first month. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it was helpful. Give me feedback if you have any on what you would like to see, which concepts weren't clear, what I should explain better, or maybe an entire separate video on some of the things that I explained, and I would be happy to share it with you.